You chained it up, clamped the fork, parked it under a bright lamp, maybe even set off the alarm, and walked away, thinking you were clever. Hate to disappoint you, but if a thief really wants that motorcycle, chances are very high he'll take it. Because stealing bikes isn't about random luck, it's all about practiced methods. And these criminals, they have more tricks than a professional racing crew desperate for revenge. They don't just grab motorcycles, they stalk them, patiently, quietly, and usually without anyone noticing, until the bike is already locked inside a shipping container halfway across the ocean. So if you imagine that a simple disc lock or a cheap tracking tag makes your machine secure, think again. We're about to break down the real ways thieves work. The subtle ones, the brutal ones, the moves that make your expensive alarm system look like a useless doorstop. And more importantly, how to actually defend yourself. Let's dive in. 1. The van lift technique. This is the ultimate, fast and silent approach. 3 guys, 1 cargo van, and less than half a minute of teamwork. No ignition keys, no grinding tools, no alarms screaming, just raw muscle and speed. 1 man grabs the handlebar, another grabs the rear, and the third yanks the van door open. In under 30 seconds, your 400-pound pride and joy disappears without a single spark or sound. Thinking your disc lock will stop that? Wrong. It just makes the bike slightly heavier. Chains? Nice idea. But if the chain isn't fixed to something immovable, it goes into the van, along with the bike. This tactic works frighteningly well in crowded cities, where sport bikes and scooters are packed onto sidewalks or left in open lots. The worst part? Bystanders often watch it happen and assume it's a repair crew or friends helping to move a bike. Nobody wants to step in. How to counter it? Anchor your motorcycle. Attach it to a ground anchor, a steel post, or something unmovable. Even better, park next to another target that looks easier and let their laziness work in your favor. If you can't anchor it, at least make yours look harder to take than the one beside it. Thieves always choose the path of least resistance. And remember, if you see 3 men loading a bike into a van at 2 a.m., that's not an Uber for motorcycles. Call the cops. 2nd, angle grinder versus disc lock. This one is harsh, loud, and still terrifyingly efficient. A cordless angle grinder will chew through that fancy $150 disc lock like it's butter straight from the sun. 10 seconds, maybe 15 if it's a high-end model. But against spinning death metal, no lock is untouchable. And here's the cruel twist. People nearby rarely react. They hear that high-pitched scream of a grinder, glance over, and assume it's just maintenance work. Someone crouched over a bike with sparks flying? To most bystanders, that looks like a mechanic, not a criminal. They don't even bother to step out of their cars. Grinders have become invisible in public life, and thieves know it. They don't care about noise or flying sparks. They move fast, and if they're smart, they'll wear a reflective vest or a work jacket so it looks like they're repairing something. Daylight? Doesn't matter. Boldness is their shield. Can you fight back? Yes, but only with time. Stack your defenses. Chain plus disc lock. Maybe even a handlebar clamp. Multiple layers mean more cuts, more sparks, and more wasted minutes. And time is the one thing criminals don't want to lose. So if you hear a grinder whining outside at night, don't assume it's a DIY project. That sound is felony in progress. 3. The Cryofreeze trick. This one feels like it belongs in a spy movie, but sadly, it's very real and shockingly easy. All it takes is a cheap can of compressed air, the same type you'd buy to blow dust off a keyboard. Flip it upside down, spray the lock for a few seconds, and the metal freezes solid. Then hit it with a hammer, and it shatters like fragile glass. No grinding, no noise, just a quick crack. And now, your motorcycle is gone. The scary part? It works best on budget locks, the kind most riders buy just to feel safer. That better-than-nothing lock? Against cryo-freezing, it's about as tough as a frozen banana. High-end locks made with hardened steel sometimes survive, but many common disc locks, chains, and padlocks remain vulnerable. It's quiet, quick, and leaves no obvious marks. When you find your lock snapped in two, you might think it broke naturally. But no, it was flash frozen and destroyed in seconds. Want real protection? Buy locks rated for extreme cold and heavy impact. And always anchor your bike, because the only thing easier to steal than a motorcycle with a cheap lock is one that isn't attached to anything at all. The fake breakdown disguise. This trick is clever in the worst possible way. The thief doesn't sneak around, doesn't rush. He strolls up in broad daylight, helmet on, maybe even a reflective vest, and simply starts pushing the motorcycle as if it broke down. Passers-by glance over and think, "Poor rider, his bike died." Then they move on without suspicion. Sometimes he fiddles with the bars, pretends to be fixing something, or crouches down like he's checking a flat tire. Add a backpack full of tools, and the illusion is flawless. It works because people expect thieves to act shady. This guy looks exactly like you when your battery fails. And here's the real problem. If someone does stop him, all he has to say is, "I lost my key, I'm just pushing it home." Not suspicious, relatable. How do you fight this? Make casual theft impossible. A disc lock with an alarm, a heavy chain to a solid anchor, even a bright reminder cable, all of these instantly ruin the disguise. If it's clearly locked, it can't be a simple breakdown. Suddenly, the stranded rider looks like what he really is, a criminal. Remember, your strongest defense isn't only hardware, it's making sure theft looks like theft. Fifth, wheel removal tactic. So you thought locking the front wheel was enough? Cute. Professional thieves don't always try to defeat the lock. They just remove the entire wheel. They show up with a dolly, a partner, and maybe even a spare wheel. In under 5 minutes, they unbolt the locked front, pop their own wheel on, or simply drag the bike using only the rear tire. Sport bikes and scooters are prime victims, especially when parked on soft ground or near curbs. Anything that makes lifting the front easier. Your disc lock is still in place, but they're not fighting the lock, they're sidestepping it entirely. And to bystanders, it doesn't even look suspicious. Someone crouched over a wheel with tools. Looks like maintenance, especially during the day and especially if dressed neatly. By the time you realize your bike's gone, it's already on a lift being stripped or halfway across the country. The solution is ridiculously simple. Lock the frame or rear wheel to something immovable. A disc lock is fine as a backup, but if the whole front end can come off, you're basically securing the part they don't even need. Secure the component they can't remove, and they'll move on to easier prey. 6. Breaking steering locks with a twist. You'd think the factory steering lock would at least slow a thief down, right? Wrong. On many motorcycles, especially older or budget models, the built-in steering lock is about as strong as a breadstick. Criminals don't waste time picking it. They just grab the handlebars and give them one violent snap. Crack! The lock breaks, and suddenly the bike steers freely as if nothing happened. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book. Quick, brutal, effective. From a distance, It looks like someone simply pushing their bike down the street. No tools, no sparks, no suspicion. Even worse, on some motorcycles, the ignition and steering lock are combined. So when the thief snaps the lock, he's also crippled half your ignition system in one move. A 2-for-1 bonus for him. The defense? Redundancy. Steering locks should only be the first layer, not the only one. Add a disc lock, a heavy chain, or even a handlebar clamp. That extra few seconds of resistance is often enough to make a thief skip your ride and pick an easier target. Because if your only safeguard is that tiny click when you turn the bars left, you're gambling with an open wallet. 7. Picking ignitions or swapping ECUs. If your bike still runs on a traditional key, especially models from the early 2000s or earlier, bad news, thieves can open it with laughable ease. They use something called a jiggler key, a skeleton key that mimics the right tumblers. Insert, wiggle, and boom. The bike thinks it's the real key. No messy hot wiring, no obvious damage, just old-school lockpicking sped up. But even newer machines aren't immune. In fact, some are easier in a different way. If the seat latch is weak or not locked at all, criminals can slip under, pull out your ECU, and swap it for one they brought. That replacement ECU is pre-programmed for their key, or worse, has no immobilizer at all. Plug it in, turn the key, and they ride off like it's theirs. This is common on modified sport bikes, where owners bypass factory security for convenience or cheaper aftermarket parts. Ironically, the cool mods often make theft easier. How do you protect yourself? If your motorcycle is old, invest in an ignition cover or lock plug. If it's newer, make sure the ECU and seat area can't be accessed without real tools. And don't underestimate a basic alarm that screams the second anyone tampers with it. Thieves like it. Quiet, quick, and easy. You just need to ruin one of those 3. 8. Parking lot tail job. This one is creepy and incredibly effective. You're hanging out at a dealership, a bike night, or filling up at a gas station, just minding your own business. A stranger compliments your ride, maybe asks a couple of casual questions, then walks away. You don't think twice. But they follow you. Bike thieves often scope out gatherings or spots where nice motorcycles cluster. They're not trying to steal it right there, they're scouting. Once they spot a machine worth taking, they quietly trail the rider until it's parked somewhere more private. Maybe at your house, maybe in a garage without cameras, maybe in an isolated lot. You've unknowingly handed them your address, your parking routine, and your habits. This strategy is used often on high-end motorcycles with obvious modifications. But even stock bikes aren't safe if they look clean and well kept. How do you beat this? Be unpredictable. If you sense a car following you too long, take an odd route or pull into a public lot and see if they stick with you. Don't post your home location on ride forums, and consider hiding a GPS tracker inside the bike. It won't stop the theft, but it may help you recover it and ruin the thief's night. 9th, killing alarms with wire cutters. So you did everything right. Installed a proper alarm, hid the siren under the seat, maybe even added a motion sensor. You feel safe leaving it while grabbing coffee. Here's the ugly truth. Most motorcycle alarms are laughably easy for seasoned thieves. Why? Because they know exactly where to look. On most bikes, the alarm module sits under the seat or tail section. A few screws, a couple of clips, and it's exposed. Some thieves don't even bother with tools. They've done it so many times, they know the wire paths by memory. One quick snip with wire cutters and poof, your $300 alarm is as worthless as a wet match. Even worse, many alarms lack backup batteries. Once cut, they're completely dead. No sound, no tracking, no flashing red light to scare anyone off. Just silence. What's the fix? If you're going to use an alarm, hide it like it's the crown jewels. Zip tie the module somewhere unusual. Wrap the wires inside the loom. Make tracing them as frustrating as possible. And never rely on just one system. Add redundancy, a GPS tracker, a heavy chain, because when one layer fails, you'll be glad you had a backup. 10th, marketplace scams, fake buyers and sellers. Not every theft comes with bolt cutters or grinders. Sometimes the thieves come smiling, pretending to buy or sell. Here's how it works. You list your motorcycle on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, or another platform. Someone messages you, asks simple questions, maybe even tries to lowball you, just enough to seem like a genuine buyer. Then they ask, "Where's the bike parked so I can check it out?" And just like that, you've handed them everything they need to come back later and take it. Other times, it flips. They post a fake listing for a too-good-to-be-true deal. You show up with cash, excited only to find there's no bike. Just a group of people ready to rob you. Sometimes they don't even use force. They simply gather the details from your conversation and use that info to steal your bike later while you sleep. How do you protect yourself? Never give out your exact location until you've verified the buyer. Always meet in public spaces with cameras, ideally near a police station. Don't send garage photos, license plates, or anything that reveals your address. And remember, if the deal feels unbelievably good, it's bait. 11th, relay attacks on keyless systems. This one feels like magic. Black magic if you're the victim. If your motorcycle uses a keyless ignition, you might think it's more secure because it's modern. But thieves have figured out how to exploit that convenience using a trick called a relay attack. Here's how. One thief stands near your house, scanning for your key fob signal. The other waits by your motorcycle. With a relay device, they extend the signal from inside your home all the way to the bike. The bike believes the fob is nearby, unlocks, powers on, and just like that, they ride away. No alarms, no smashing locks, no drama. To neighbors, it looks like you're just taking your own bike for a ride. These devices used to be rare, but now they're cheap and easy to find. With $100 and 10 minutes on YouTube, anyone can learn the method. Your defense? Buy a Faraday pouch for your key fob. It blocks the signal completely when you're not riding. And never trust the keyless system alone. Add a chain, an alarm, even a hidden tracker if you can. High-tech thieves demand high-tech defenses. 12th, plate swap and ride away. This tactic is sneaky, and it works far more often than most riders realize. Picture this. Your bike is parked on the street or even in your driveway. It's locked, alarmed, and you feel secure. Then a thief strolls up, not in a hoodie, but looking like a regular rider. He pulls out a stolen or fake license plate, swaps it with yours, and walks away. Now, to the outside world, the motorcycle isn't yours anymore. With the fake plate in place, he can roll it a few blocks away, disable alarms or trackers, and by the time you notice it's missing, he's already blended into traffic. Even if police cameras pick up the bike, they'll record the wrong plate. Witnesses describing the scene will unknowingly give false details, and the act itself? Invisible. Most people seeing someone adjusting a license plate assume it's routine maintenance, maybe just changing tags. But in reality, it's one of the smartest ways to steal in plain sight. The fix? Use tamper-proof screws on your license plate, and if you park in public often, a discreet GPS tracker hidden under the seat might not be paranoia. It might be the only reason you get your bike back. Final thoughts. At the end of the day, motorcycle thieves don't need to be geniuses. They just need owners to be careless. Every single trick described here works not because it's some Hollywood-level heist, but because the average rider thinks, it won't happen to me. But the truth is, it can. And it does. Thousands of bikes vanish each year, never seen again. Not because the locks were worthless, but because the habits were. So if you've learned something today, good. If it scared you a little, even better. Take 2 minutes tonight, walk outside, look at your motorcycle, and ask yourself, if I were a thief, how easy would this be? Then fix that weakness, and if you've ever had a close call or a stolen bike story, share it. Someone else will learn from it. Because the only thing worse than losing your motorcycle is knowing it could have been prevented. Ride safe, park smart, and lock it like someone's already watching.